salt, all these things were exported in larger quantity. So the recording of arrivals and departure of ships for this period of for now almost to 90 in the period of 19th century, the recordings in the English records are very random. We do not find continuous records. We find from various consultations. We find one reference in the public consultation, we find another reference in the judicial consultation, we find another reference in the maritime consultation. So something like that. There was no continuous. So with all difficulties we have to gather materials from various records of the European, of the English, and we were able to connect all these matters. But the Strait Settlement records shed more light on the trade of the Southeast Asian trade with Coromandel Coast. But even there we find some gaps. So some records are available in India Record Office, and some records are available in Tamil Nadu Archives at Chennai, and some records are available elsewhere. So here also in the Southeast Asian countries, particularly in the archives of the state archives of Malaysian Peninsula, we find some records. In this one, an important information I want to share with the scholars is that the Danish records are almost remain unexplored. The Danish records for 200 years, they shed more light on the trade of Coromandel Muslims, particularly the Muslims of Tanjore Coast. So fortunately or unfortunately, majority of the Danish records remain unexplored. And even in the Strait Settlement records, so many records remain unexplored. So when we find materials in such records, we may get very fine information about the Coromandel trade with Southeast Asia. So in the last quarter of the 19th century, still the trade of Muslims were lesser. Now the immigration from Coromandel Coast to Penang and other Southeast Asian countries picked up. So actually the trade ships, the commodities became secondary and they became passenger ships. Against the rules, they transported so many people, and many ships of the Muslims were in trouble and taken into task by the British authorities. And in 1887, the English government withdrew all the restrictions over the immigration process, and they reduced the ship freight charges. Then it was 15 rupees from Nagapattinam to Penang, and they reduced it to 8 rupees to attract more people to Penang. So like this, the English were interested more in bringing people than commodities. So the Coromandel Muslims, by their activity, they were utilizing whatever be the opportunity open. So by this way, by the end of 19th century, we find only a very few ships that are plying to the Southeast Asian countries, not only to Southeast Asian countries, to Sri Lanka, Maldives, or West Coast and other places, particularly in the Indian Ocean trade. And by the end of 19th century, we find almost a total decline in the shipping of Coromandel Muslims, Julia Muslims, and this is economic despair that they met. Various reasons are attributed for these things. One important thing that recurs our attention is that by their maritime activities, the Coromandel Muslims have contributed much to the development of the Coromandel Coast for about 300 or 400 years. But for their effort, the economic condition of the Coromandel Coast would not have developed to that extent, we can say, in that front in a very positive manner. Further, they were responsible for providing employment opportunities for thousands of people. So, with all these contributions to the development of a particular area, the Tamil Muslims, Muslim maritime Muslims or their services to be recorded in the proper perspective. So various external factors were responsible for the decline of the Coromandel Muslim trade. The major export to commodity, textiles, lost its market in Southeast Asia, not only in Southeast Asia, it's a global phenomenon. Formerly the textiles from India, and particularly the textiles from South India, were the major commodity in global trade. So by about 1860 or 70s, the Indian textiles lost its market totally in the global trade. And it was re-exported from Nagapattinam in Muslim ships and brought to Penang and sent to world market. So, like this, it became a topsy-turvy. So, that was the prime reason. The commodity composition is one of the reasons. The economic ambition of the English marginalized the Muslim also. Though we find about the relationship of the Portuguese, Dutch and other people. The Portuguese were religiously, they were against the Muslims. They considered them as their enemies. They thought that their previous European enmity in Spain. So with all these things, on the religious basis also, they were giving them trouble. In the earlier years, the Dutch were also following this. So, but English were no religious bias like that. So they were liberal in their activities. However, the economic ambition was very high. So in that, they never to sacrifice any people. So in that, the Muslims really, if we go through the history of the Tamil Nadu, that is particularly the history of Nawabs of Arta, they were the people who were responsible for rooting out the British Empire in India. So, in spite of all these things, they never hesitated to sideline these Muslims. So, their economic ambition was against the Muslims also. The relatively smaller business of Coromandel Coast increased the competition of the English private traders, was a big competition to the Coromandel Muslims. The shipping regulations, new shipping regulations in 1812, 1814, all were against the interests of native traders, in that the Muslims had to give more taxes than the Hindu and the European traders. That was another reason. And the Muslims who were this centralized great economic power of the British, the supreme shipping technology of the English, were engulfing the Muslims who were struggling with lesser capital and old sale. The Muslims never were sleeping over the challenges that are facing. They never tried to face them in a organized manner. See, even in 1850s, the steamer ships have come to the South Indian coast and they were trading in all this thing. But our Muslim traders were sailing in the old sails. They never thought of modernization. Till about, we find a reference in the English records in 1892, only a lone ship, a dhoni of 80 ton capacity, 80 ton burthen, comes from Nagapattinam, sails from Nagapattinam to Penang. That's a very old sign. So even in that period also, they never thought of going for modernization. And they also neglected the English education. That is another ill-bringing matter to the English Muslim trade in particular and Muslim society at large. So they were never rose to the occasion to meet the challenges and crises. Instead, they were satisfied with the residual trade, utilizing the freight services offered by the British, and they were trading with the help of the British. Just they became traders. All the ships have gone. The small ships were doing some coastal trade. From port to port, they were doing small business. A few alone survived the storm, and they continued to future in the maritime trade activities of Penang here particularly, with a new economic order. The majority of members of the maritime Muslim community, together with the migrants, have become the part of the multiracial and multilingual Penang society. The glorious history of the Coromandel Muslim maritime trade went unnoticed at the dawn of 20th century, unsung, unwept at the beginning of 20th century. Thank you.
The floor for questions.
Professor, can you tell us a little bit more about the blue cloth? Is it still existing and what is it called now?
Now the textile industry is almost gone. From particularly, another thing I want to tell, that the blue cloth industry was run by Muslim weavers and Muslim dyers. And the paintings, the screen cloth and all those things, they were painted by Muslim artists. And we find in the British records that the British families, very big families, rich families, were very fond of using such screens in their houses.
Can I just say the blue cloth is all the indigo. I mean, it was huge then, and it was of huge value. But the thing that I find very interesting with all of this is that everything goes in cycles. But now, in a way, things are going back to India and away from that industrialization and mass market things. And India is now becoming quite a hub for designers from the West that are looking for very high-end, specialized textiles. So in a small way, it's rolling back again, which is actually very nice.
Yes, the indigo industry was very, indigo production was really, the British government encouraged indigo cultivation. Particularly the indigo cultivation was much in Porto Novo area. In other areas also, in Tanjavur area also, the indigo cultivation was encouraged. The farmers were given so many concessions in that cultivation. So, like Madam said, that the production of indigo in the area was responsible for the production of the blue cloth. But even that industry was, the major portion of it was in the hands of the Muslim traders.
By Muslim traders, you mean the Julians? Who do you mean in particular?
Julius, yeah.
Julius.
Julius is what the British
Muslim
call.
here I say that it's only Tamil Muslim traders. Muslim traders means whatever we said in the lecture is Tamil Muslims. Chulias, what you call.
For these blue clothes, during what time was that very much trade? 1700s, 1800s?
18th century.
1800s.
Even in the second half of, even in the 19th century it was having good market. During the whole of 18th and 19th centuries.
I don't know if it's the same as the blue cloth that they use in Sumatra, which they still use. It's a very thick blue
Yes,
cloth,
yes.
And there's a big market in Sumatra. But I think
Most probably they might have used in for curtains or some spread or something like that.
Is it Latha? Is Latha the same word?
Yes.
Latha. Latha.
it
That's why school uniforms all became blue.
Yeah, but it was a basic cotton fabric that was woven.
Yes.
And it was blue because of the indigo. And it was that colour that everybody fell in love with. And it became huge in the West because they didn't have that colour in the West. There was no artificial dye. And indigo was just massive at that time, all up to the Industrial Revolution. I mean, it's a fascinating story all on its own, the indigo production, how the British pushed it in India like crazy. And then during industrialization, it went right down to artificial dyes, took it all away.
We find from the records, it fetched more than 195% profit.
Yeah.
This blue cloth.
But
It was the value
It
of.
was a basic
So there might have been types, coarse and as well as nice varieties.
It was the indigo that actually gave it its value.
And there's a
So because that indigo happens to be the natural dye,
Yeah.
so people were crazy about it.
Later you had the khaki. I mean, it's the same material.
Yes.
So everybody either wore blue or khaki. Yeah.
Are you aware of the Karo? The Karo in the highlands of Sumatra.
Yeah. These are the Sumatran.
The Karo people.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
The Karo people, that's their
Yes.
costume.
Yes.
Blue. And the Karo clans has many Indian. Yeah. They adopted Indian
Yeah.
clan.
And indigo is planted in all those areas,
Yeah.
and even
So
in
that's-
Laos,
yeah, that's
everywhere,
the
they're
connection.
reviving it now.
They, in fact, some or other, this blue color from India caught the attention of the global market. See, in various places, even in our place, where I live now, Pudukkottai, even there, it was a princely state under the control of the British government. But even there, the British government was encouraging the farmers to cultivate indigo. There was an indigo factory. And from the Tanjavur ports, which is proximity to our Pudukkottai area, one Sedubhava Chatram port. From there, the indigo material exported directly to England also in the late 50s, 1850s.
Was the cotton also grown in the same area? Cotton for the cloth, was it also grown in the same area?
The cotton for the cloth, where was it grown? Where do they grow the cotton?
To make the backside.
Cotton. To make the cloth, because it's a cotton cloth, you know the textile.
Cotton.
Yeah.
Cotton, indigenous cotton. Indigenous. So, at the beginning of the European infusion in South India, they introduced various types of cottons. They encouraged it. The British encouraged the cotton wool, cotton cultivation. They procured the cotton here, exported to England, and in the long run, this cotton was produced as a cloth there and it came to Indian market. Previously, the cloth alone were going to. So, it was very interesting thing in the economy has gone up and down. So all the cotton grown indigenously. In fact, all the rulers, they took up much efforts to encourage the cultivators to cultivate cotton. When the sultans, Golconda Sultan, Bijapur Sultans, the climate and the soil was very congenial for cotton cultivation, and in certain portions of Tamil Nadu, in Tirunelveli district, it was favorable for cotton cultivation, and in all those places, cotton was cultivated, and the raw cotton was also exported to European countries and China also.
So actually, a lot of the Tirunelveli Muslims, they came here because, you know, the villages grew because of the cotton industry, the handloom industry. And then after that, when the industry was taken away, they had famines. I mean, they were all starving and they all came here. from Kedah and Penang Muslims here, they all came here because of famines in the leading villages.
So with regard to the shipping of Tamil Muslims, as such, the materials which we have got is not complete. Still we have to search so many materials. Because there are some gaps and we are in search of more materials. So hope we will be getting good materials in the world.
What about the trading of elephants? There's plenty down in here and also plenty down in India. So the trading is between they export the elephant to sell to India. Sell to India.
Yeah, to India.
But still India they have plenty of elephants.
Because of us.
In India also there is reason for that. But here it was abundant. So that wherever it is abundant, it has to be brought to other places. So it is more profitable.
Can I just say something? I was reading a book on Phuket. A person from Golconda came to Thailand, and then the representative of the Thai king was boasting to this person from Golconda and says, you know, my king says, the domain is so vast. And then he says, yes, but it's mainly filled with monkeys, not people. So I think maybe that's the thing. There were lots of animals here, and then there no need for it, so they sold it to India, where they were used for war.
Military purposes. Isn't the Kedah elephants smaller than the Indian elephant?
Maybe.
Not for the Raja, but for the prince.
Just one question, please. The word Gajah, is it an Indian origin or is it a Malay origin?
Gajah is the elephant. And word for elephant is Gajah.
It's not Tamil, isn't it?
Gajah.
Or what do you call elephant
In Tamil is Yane, isn't it?
Yane.
Yane.
In Tamil it is Yane.
In Malay it's Gajah.
Malay is Gajah.
The elephant is referred to as Gajah in Malay. But is it that's what I was asking, is it
Sanskrit?
Was it Sanskrit maybe? Because Marco Polo, when he was going through the Himalayas, he was riding on a Gajah. He was riding in the book it is written as Gajah, it's not written as the Nani or whatever it is named. Back in Marco Polo's time already, it was also called Gajah in the Silk Road.
We should look into it.
This is referred to Marco Polo.
And also in here, the shipping records of Penang, the first 10 years there, there's a very sharp decline. 1788, that is 11, 1789, 11, 1790, 17, but 1791, 6 only. But come back to 1792, 22. Is there any special reason for this decline?
That is 1791, there is a decline. Maybe that during that period, due to some problems